So, do you think that it's possible on our part to become invisible? Can we become invisible? No. It appears to be a ghost story if we say somebody all of a sudden became invisible. Now, that will be a ghost story. Oh, it's a ghost, spirit. Okay? That's a kind of thing we will think that way. But we know it pretty well that scientifically this is not possible. Clear? What if science comes up with its own kind of approach to it? What if science one day invents a way how you can make your body, physical body, invisible? Let's see. Let's see how it worked, how a scientist invented the technique to become invisible and what the outcome of this was. Let us see. So as it starts, you see, we come across a person, a scientist, who discovers how to make himself invisible. Now the question is that a matter that is to be addressed first is whether such a discovery should be used properly or misuse of it. We know it is always said, whether science is a curse or a blessing. Now basically every invention, every discovery of science is considered as good, provided it is used for a good cause. Now the scientist, as mentioned here, whether he made use of it, good use of it, or he made corrupt use of it. Let's see, let's read it, what was done by him. The two boys started in surprise at the fresh muddy imprints of a pair of bare feet. What was a barefooted man doing on the steps of a house in the middle of London? And where was the man? As they gazed, a remarkable sight met their eyes. A fresh footmark appeared from nowhere. Further footsteps followed, one after another, descending the steps and progressing down the street. The boys followed, fascinated, until the muddy impressions became fainter and fainter and at last disappeared altogether. Now what happened here? Two boys, they got surprised. They got alerted in surprise at the fresh muddy imprints. What did they notice? Muddy imprint. You understand mud? So muddy impression of a pair of bare feet. It's not shoe, it's bare feet mark. Now they started thinking, what was a barefooted man doing on the steps of a house in the middle of London? Now that was the question. There was a house on the steps of a house. What was doing? A barefooted man, and that also in the middle of London. No paddy field, nothing there, and a man barefooted. What was he doing there? They thought that way. And the next question, where was the man then? As they gazed, as they looked constantly, a remarkable thing met their eyes. What was it? A fresh footmark appeared from nowhere. From nowhere appeared a fresh footmark again. No individual, nobody, but the footprints could be seen. Clear? One after another. Further footprints followed, one after another, descending the steps and progressing down the street. So the staircase, the staircase or the steps of a house. Now footprints followed, and one after another, and then it proceeded. It moved towards the street. Clear? One after another, descending the steps and progressing down the street. The boys, so it went on. It progressed down the street. The boys followed, fascinated. They got very much attracted, mesmerized almost, until the muddy impressions. Because if you step on mud, after a few footsteps, the mud will get fainter, and then there will be no footprint. You understand it? So a similar thing happened. What happened? Until the boys followed them. Who did they follow? That footprints they followed. Clear? Until the muddy impressions became fainter and fainter, and at last it disappeared altogether. No footprint could be seen. Now what was it? It's a mystery kind of thing. How could there be footprints without feet? The explanation of the mystery was really simple enough. The bewildered boys, the crazy boys, had been following a scientist. They were following a scientist who had just discovered how to make the human body transparent. What did they discover? How to make the human body transparent. Now, who was that scientist? Griffin, the scientist, had carried out experiment after experiment to prove that the human body could become invisible. Finally, he swallowed certain rare drugs and his body became as transparent as a sheet of glass, though it also remained as solid as glass. Now, Griffin, who was the scientist? Griffin, he carried out experiment one after another to prove that the human body could become invisible. And finally he swallowed. You understand swallowing? Like you take a chocolate and you swallow. So he also swallowed certain medicines, certain drugs. Okay? And became invisible. Clear? Became transparent. You know transparent? Like a glass, you know. Glass is transparent. Clear? It passes transverse light, you know. So as transparent as a sheet of glass, although as solid as a glass also. Clear? So what happened there? Brilliant scientist though he was, Griffin was rather a lawless person. His landlord disliked him and tried to eject him. In revenge, Griffin set fire to the house. To get away without being seen, he had to remove his clothes. Thus, it was that he became a homeless wanderer, without clothes, without money, and quite invisible, until he happened to step in some mud and left footprints as he walked. Now, what happened? He was a brilliant scientist, it's true. But he was a lawless person. Clear? He did not follow laws. He was indulged in illegal activities. Clear? His landlord disliked him. His landlord didn't like him and tried to eject him. You know ejection? To kick him out, you can say in a rough language. Clear? So, try to eject him. In revenge, now it's very easy. The word eject can be understood. CD or DVD drive in the laptop. Clear? When you take it out, it's ejection. Ejecting the file. Taking out. Clear? So like that. In revenge, Griffin set fire to the house. In revenge, Griffin did what? He set fire to the house because his landlord didn't like him. So now I am invisible, you cannot see me, and I am setting fire to your house. Clear? He did this way. Now, to get away without being seen, he had to remove his clothes. Now because his body is invisible, it's true, but the dress and all would make him visible. So in order to become completely invisible, he had to do what? He had to put off his clothes, whole clothes. Clear? And leave the house also. And thus he became a homeless wanderer, without clothes, without money, and quite invisible. Wanderer means a person who moves from one place to another without any destination. Clear? Without any set destination or goal, a person who moves from one place to another is a wanderer. Clear? Thus it was that he became a homeless wanderer, without clothes, without money, and quite invisible, until he happened to step in some mud. And left footprints as he walked. Clear? Okay, so the mystery behind the footprints is clear now. If you are asked a question, what was the mystery behind the footprints? You can answer. Mystery behind the footprints is clear now. Let's move on to the next part. He escaped easily enough from the boys who followed his footprints in London, but his adventures were by no means over. He had chosen a bad time of the year to wander about London without clothes. It was midwinter. The air was bitterly cold and he could not do without clothes. Instead of walking about the streets, he decided to slip into a big London store for warmth. Now what is said? He escaped easily enough from the boys who followed his footprints in London. It's easy. He escaped easily. Clear? But his adventures were by no means over. The risky journey, moving from one place to another, was by no means over. What happened? He had chosen a bad time of the year to wander about in London without clothes. Clear? It was winter, and in winter, actually in European countries, especially in London and other countries, they have two seasons only, summer and winter. And summer is very hot, winter is very cold. Clear? And so what happened there, you see, he had chosen a bad time of the year to wander about in London without clothes. It was midwinter. You understand, biting cold and having nothing to wear. Clear? The air was bitterly cold and he could not do without clothes. The air was very cold and he could not but wear clothes. Instead of walking about the streets, he decided to slip into a big London store for warmth. And so, what was the decision? Instead of walking about the streets, he decided to slip into a big London store. What did he decide? To get into a big London store for warmth. Because there he will get things and can wear them, or at least he will feel warmth. Understood? Closing time arrived, and as soon as the doors were shut, Griffin was able to give himself the pleasure of clothing and feeding himself without regard to expense. He broke open boxes and wrappers and fitted himself out with warm clothes. Soon, with shoes, an overcoat, and a wide-brimmed hat, he became fully dressed and visible person. In the kitchen of the restaurant, he found cold meat and coffee, and he followed up the meal with sweets and wine taken from the grocery store. Finally, he settled down to sleep on a pile of quilts. Now what happened? Slowly, the closing time for the store arrived. So the store will be closed. That was the thing. As soon as the doors were shut, now nobody was there inside the store. So Griffin was the, you can say the king of he became the king of the store, and it's now up to him, over to him, it's stage. He is to do whatever he wishes to do. He has to do. And so what happened, you see? He was able to give himself the pleasure of clothing and feeding himself, eating, you understand? Feeding himself with whatever, without regard to the expense, because nothing to be paid. It's all his now. Nobody would see also. Clear? He broke open boxes and wrappers and fitted himself out with warm clothes. So he opened the boxes and wrappers. You understand, chocolates are wrapped. So wrappers, and fitted himself out with warm clothes. Whatever was there, all boxes, clothes and all. So whatever was there, he found whatever suitable, he opened it and wore it. Clear? Soon, with shoes, an overcoat, and a wide-brimmed hat, he became a fully dressed and visible person. And soon, with shoes, an overcoat, you understand overcoat? A coat that extends up to below the knee level, okay? An overcoat and a wide-brimmed hat, he became a fully dressed and visible person. Clear to you? In the kitchen of the restaurant, he found cold meat and coffee. In the kitchen of the restaurant, what did he find? He found cold meat and coffee. And he followed up the meal with sweets and wine. He followed up the meat with what? With sweets and wine taken from the grocery store. Clear now? Finally, he settled down to sleep on a pile of quilts. You understand quilts? Locally we say lap. In winter days we use it. So whatever he found, lap and tushok, you understand, these are the terms. So that one. Pile of quilts he found. He settled down to sleep on a pile of quilts. If only Griffin had managed to wake up in good time, all might have been well. As it was, he did not wake up until the assistants were already arriving next morning. Clear? Now first sentence is to be taken care of. Just see. If only Griffin had managed to wake up in good time, all might have been well. If only Griffin had managed to wake up in good time. What does it mean? Had Griffin woken up in good time. That means he did not wake up in good time. Okay, he woke up late. And when he woke up, already the staff members are already there in the store. Clear? When he when he woke up, he found many people there. And so when he saw a couple of them approaching, he panicked and began to run. They naturally gave chase, and in the end he was able to escape only by quickly taking off his newly found clothes. So once more he found himself invisible but naked in the chill January air. Now what happened? So what happened? He woke up late, and when he woke up he found the staff members already entering. Clear? And as he saw them approaching him, he got panicked. My goodness, what's happened to me? What will happen to me? And so he started running. And they naturally gave a chase because they didn't. He was not invisible by at that time because he was wearing all kinds of dresses. And so when he started moving out, the the workers of the store chased him. And ultimately he could escape only by taking off his clothes again and found himself naked in the chill January air. Is up to this is okay? So this is the problem. Every time he wanted to get himself in or keep himself in the comfort zone, it didn't work. It didn't work. He had to face problems. Clear? He had to face problems. He had to suffer. He had to whenever he wanted to wear and all, because he didn't have any fair ways. He had to take up the foul means of survival. Clear? And every time he was caught twice. First time he set fire. Second time he tried to manage this way, but he was late, and so he had to put off his clothes. And again he found himself there in the London street without any clothes in the mid-January air. So he needed to go for something permanent. So what did he do? We'll get to know in the next video.